Guys, I went back in One Piece history and recorded and memorized every single event from the past 200 years up to the current timeline. Isn't it funny when videos start out like that? I didn't. However, I am obsessing over the timeline. The One Piece timeline was found on the Library of Ohara. There's certain things I want to talk about on the timeline because I'm as well obsessing over this recent chapter, considering just low-key major implications. And so I'm going to involve you guys as well. Like some of the comments, some of the things I've stumbled across over this past 24, 48 hours, because what the hell, man? So first thing we're going to talk about the timeline, right? Everything that happened 200 years ago that could be related to this chapter. I'm gonna be honest off the rip, not many things happened 200 years ago that we can really point back to, but here are some of the major events based on the timeline. The Saint Brice. You guys remember the Saint Brice? That's a ship that fell out of the sky right before they went to Jaya. Yeah, that thing. And when it fell, Robin, being just Robin, using the ship's records and even Chopper's help, was able to discern exactly what happened, and that ship, the Saint Brice, set sail 208 years ago from the current timeline. Of course, this is pre-time skip, so 210 years ago at this point. Now, the Saint Brice, why is it significant? I think anything that has to do with Sky Island offers a level of intrigue. After reading about the Saint Brice, I went back, reread the Norland story, reread about the Shandians, even went back and reread Enel's story, because again, not only because of the Saint Brice, but because of the major implications from the chapter, a possible power source, this major robot that had some trigger to attack the Holy Land 700 years after it was created. These things are important. The only other major event that was mentioned in the chapter was that was the last time the Ryugu Kingdom attended a reverie. What is the correlation here? Yeah, you go back to Fisher Tiger and some of his ideals in regards to taking down the world government, climbing the red line. You wonder how history interprets certain things. History and time has a rhyme and reason to it, a pattern. And so 200 years ago, we had something climb the red line. We had a fisherman attend a reverie, started to be treated like humans, but really treated like fishmen, as opposed to fish. And in the current timeline, we had them attend a reverie again. So major events are somewhat recurring. I don't know if it was out of fear, where these people, the world government, they decided, you know what, this may be triggered by certain events, and so they started allowing the fishmen. They have to be tied together somehow. Personally, I don't think these are isolated events. We're just waiting for the puzzle pieces to fit it all together. Just 200 years ago, that's the first time they attended. Now they're attending again. Now we find out a robot climbed the red line. But again, the main thing people are taking away from this chapter are the power source, Veganet, and subscribing to this channel. All right, that's what people are saying. People are saying, yo, it's time to subscribe to B.D.A. Law. You may have watched a few videos and haven't realized, hey, I'm not subscribed, but want to stay up to date. We're going to be breaking down everything in regards to what happened lately. And this chapter has really triggered so many different ideas. And guys, I hope you're around to see it because, hey, it's going to be epic. But okay, those are the major things that happened 200 years ago. I mean, you can mention Dorian Brogy being born, Mother Carmel like 60 years later, and crazy enough, Kureha as well, right? Like 70 or so years later, because she's old as hell. This brings us to our first comment, which will lead to an entire video, I promise you, about Veganet and how the One Piece world would be if an internet was created, the positives, the negatives, the implications of such. But either way, Ayane Fieka 1952 says, holy shit, maybe Vegapunk does successfully create his network on a global scale. Then he goes to Laugh Tale with Straw Hats, learns about the Void Century, uploads it on the network, and that's how the whole world learns about the Void Century. Well, someone in the replies did mention that makes We Are Too Early have a different feel to it. Whereas for Gold Roger, let's say they stumbled upon something that could imply that the world had not caught up to the technology of the past, so that was necessary to even control and understand the ancient weapons, but also decipher the poneglyphs and do something with the information that you received. Whereas I think it's beautiful that the dumbest person in the world and the smartest person in the world having a conversation and leading to just comedy gold with Luffy and Vegapunk. You may argue Luffy's not the dumbest person in the world. People are gonna say Ace, relax. I think Luffy has a strong case to be made. Other things I'm obsessing in regards to this chapter that has to do with the power source, but I'm still doing research on the power source, so don't want to give you guys any premature ideas. Gear 5 is surrounding that in regards to Joy Boy's sun god Nico, what it actually means to the people. At some point, these people started to revere the sun god when they were in times of need, and Luffy being able to basically have the most ridiculous power in the world, could that go back to Joy Boy and different things Joy Boy was able to do? Even though I think Gear 5 could be related to a power source, have a connection with the power source, I think there is an actual substance or thing that is literally a power source that was taken from the ancient kingdom. When I think of power sources, I think of things like a Fa sun or something that could power an ancient giant like that. One of the things I thought of was Enies Lobby. So recently I went down and spent a couple hours just researching, rereading Enies Lobby and somewhat the geography of such. Shout out to my boy Tekking.
Geography is everything!
Because, oh my god, what is happening with Enies Lobby? Easily the most interesting, mysterious, and structurally confusing place in the One Piece world. Here's the thing. For Enies Lobby, we have the Waterfall Ring, the Day Station, the Main Gate, Main Island Gate, the Courtyard, Courthouse, Tower of Justice, Bridge of Hesitation, and the Gates of Justice. This is turning into a geography breakdown, but I don't care. It's crazy.
Geography is everything!
First off, the major thing that drew me to Enies Lobby is that it's never nighttime on the island. Even during storms like Aqua Laguna, the sun is still shining on the island. There are whirlpools behind the island. There is a giant gate, which the Gates of Justice, and that opens a little bit, and then when it opens, that stops the whirlpools because of the tides. Guys, this is just phenomenal structuring, or just an act of God. And you know, One Piece God has a different meaning, but let's go to the waterfall right now. There is a large waterfall under the island. We don't know where it leads. It's a huge black void. And I've seen different posts in relation to the real world where people are saying, hey, it could be something similar to this, but we don't know what's down there. I know in certain theories, people said the One Piece is down there. I'm inclined to disagree. But other than that, there is a single bridge of land connecting that island to the sea. So the island is floating above a hole in the ocean. Still not explained, okay? And the structural integrity of this is in question. What the bro? There are theories around, right? About Enies Lobby, the location of such, and how Enies Lobby would have to make sense. One of the theories to try to justify the sun always being up in Enies Lobby is that Enies Lobby is located at one of the poles, North Pole or South Pole, depending on the rotation and the axis of the Earth. And we don't know the fine details of that, but clearly Enies Lobby is not located at either of those areas. And if it's always daytime in Enies Lobby, there's somewhere in the One Piece world where it should always be night. Now, there are places in the One Piece world where it always snows, places where it's always lightning. There are oddities like that, but this is outside of the norm. There are other oddities that people mention, like maybe the solar system of the One Piece world, where there are multiple suns, like there are multiple moons, hinted by Oda. I don't think that works. I think this is a power source. Is this the power source that they were talking about? Who knows? However, these are some of the reasons why I doubt it. Vegapunk does not understand or know about this. Unless they have someone scientifically that is on the level of Vegapunk or can compete with Vegapunk, how did they utilize this thing? How would Vegapunk not know about this? Because Vegapunk, or at least Atlas, or rather Lilith, was interested in creating a sun. And there's so much, man, because for Lilith, she specifically talks about an undying flame. When we think of undying flames, you think of the Lunarians. Now, my theory is that Lunarians, they were born from this flame, and they were the ones protecting this undying flame, protecting this sun that Lilith, in her mind, of course, in Vegapunk's mind, would be amazing to create. The world government, we know for a fact they got rid of the Lunarians, and they took the place where the Lunarians were atop the red line. More than likely, this thing is being used by the world government. And of course, with Vegapunk trying to recreate something like this, Oda is telling us this is possible, because the greatest inventor of our time is saying, hey, this would be the best way in regards to an energy source for all of the inventions that I have. And so for the people of back then that had even greater machinery, greater experiments, greater tech, they would come to the same conclusion. Vegapunk is a genius with a brain fruit, which is more so for memory. He is coming to the same conclusion that they did, but they have the resources to recreate their own sun. And so I think it's being used by the world government. There are negatives to something like this, and I will get into the possible betrayal of one of the punks as well. But guys, I need your thoughts. What do you think about this? All right. What are your thoughts on not only Enies Lobby and its structural integrity and it never being nighttime there, Luffy or Gear 5 being somewhat the conduit and being able to create or replicate a power source of sorts, where Gear 5 was able to just grab lightning? Can it do something as ridiculous as that? What do you think is the meaning behind any of these things? Because chapter 1067, in terms of just face value, not as hype for most people. For me, this is one of the chapters that shows the depth of One Piece, where we're going back, we're looking at timelines, we're looking at Vivid cards, SPSs, rereading arcs, rereading bios, looking at geography. You understand? And so I want to know how you guys feel about this, okay? Make sure to like the video, right? Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Man, what the heck is happening, bro?
Okay, I start doubting me, I felt lost. I rewrite it.